Question number 7, Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. Is the Prime Minister correct with respect to tax cuts that, quote, the options are either include it in Budget 2017 or we campaign on that as part of Election 2017? Those are the two most likely options. Taking into consideration, we have a responsibility to take into account two things, which are the fiscal and economic conditions and how well we are doing in terms of addressing the reduction in debt.
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, yes, the Prime Minister is correct, and in my experience he's correct a lot more often than the member is. But as he pointed out, lowering taxes is government policy, so is investing in infrastructure and better public services. We've always made it clear tax cuts are dependent on support of fiscal and economic conditions.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
In light of that answer, why are tax cuts still the most likely option when he has failed to meet one of the core tests in terms of reducing net debt, which he admitted yesterday had not decreased in dollar terms at all on his watch?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the member is trying to talk about the government fiscal objectives in a way that is simply incorrect. For instance, with respect to net debt, the target has been to reduce it to 20% of GDP. That has been the target for a number of years. It is now starting to decrease at the same time as the government is managing increased spending on infrastructure, reinforcement of core public services, overhauling much of the government machinery so it's more customer friendly. All of these things can be achieved, as well as reducing taxes if fiscal conditions are good enough.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Are his officials working on a tax cut plan for Budget 2017?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, no, but they will certainly be working on the longer-term fiscal outlook. In fact, I think Treasury is going to publish the long-term fiscal outlook shortly, and we would expect in the run-up to Budget 2017 to look at all the options. The member shouldn't be surprised about that, but he's probably quite concerned at the range of choices the government has, because with good fiscal management over the last 6 or 8 years, including rebuilding Christchurch, we're one of the few developed countries that have rising surpluses and therefore choices which this government intends to make wisely.
Good question, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
What does he consider to be a meaningful tax cut for the average wage earner in dollar terms per week?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we haven't been considering that matter, but the member can be reassured that the government will look, as it does each budget, at the whole range of options, and I know it concerns them greatly that this government is making a lot of progress on dealing with New Zealand's most intractable social problems, for instance. And we will be applying more funding, for instance, to caring for our most vulnerable children, but doing it in a way that's focused on results. Unlike the Labor Party, who are stuck in the best thinking of the 90s.
We don't need to go there with the answer.
Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Which is a higher priority for him, restarting contributions to the super fund or tax cuts?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the member will just have to wait and see. But I know he is concerned at the range of choices the government has. I think New Zealand's one of only 3 developed countries in the situation we're in, with growth around 3%.
Order. Point of order, Grant Robertson.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister didn't address the question, and even if you argue that he did by saying I have to wait, he's now moved into utterly irrelevant material.
No, he certainly didn't answer the question to the satisfaction of the member, but when I consider the question, it was never going to be answered to the satisfaction of the member. Further supplementaries, or shall we move on? Question number 8.